Okay, going live now. Okay, I think we're live. So welcome back everyone to another town hall. And if anyone's watching, welcome and thanks for joining. I'm gonna just get my windows squared away here and I'll share my screen in just a moment. Okay, share my screen so we can see some notes. You guys seeing that?
Yep.
Okay, and good morning, Ben and Alexander. Welcome, guys. Just getting started. Okay, so Ben, are you in a position to take care of notes today?
Yep, I can help with notes for sure.
Awesome. I'll let you fill in the names then. Don't have anybody to introduce. Everybody here is a regular. Okay, action items. Bob and I are still going to do some kind of a recorded discussion about animal prosthetics just to give people kind of an overview of the process there, but that's sort of a one-time permits thing. Bob, any updates on these other things? You said you were able to reach out to some of these people? Bob, are you hearing me? Are the rest of you hearing me?
You know, it's not. I'm sorry. I have still a few lingering things I've been doing. I haven't had time to do them.
Oh, no problem.
But they will get done here very shortly.
Oh, no rush at all. I'm sorry, I had misunderstood. I thought you had you were talking about the Bishnu case before, and I
Oh, the
confused it with-
Bishnu case. I'm sorry. Wait a minute now.
No. I was confused. So we'll talk about the Bishnu case in a little while. Let's hold off on that.
Yeah.
When we get
On
let's
the
just,
animal
get through-
prostheses, the identifying the next couple action items, I just haven't gotten around to it. I will here.
Not a problem. And then let me know how I can help. Like I said, you and I maybe could just jump on a Zoom call and record it and just have an ad hoc discussion. Even that would maybe be helpful to some folks. So we'll move on for now because we don't have John with us. I suspect, do you know, Ben, is he giving his co-inter presentation right now? Is that maybe why he's not here? I never did find out when he was giving that presentation.
I think he's already given it.
Oh,
I could be
okay.
wrong though.
Maybe, I hope we get a link. I wanted to see that. Okay, so upcoming presentations we got next week. Allie and Kevin, can't believe it's time already, but they're going to be giving us their summary report for their internship. Hate to let them go, but it'll be good. Those presentations are always very helpful, so I look forward to that next week. And as far, oh, hold on, I'm going to adjust my windows here because I can't see everyone. Give me 1 second. And I want to also pull out the chat for YouTube. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Apologies, folks. I usually do all this before time. I was running late today. Okay, so here are the statistics. Nothing really that I would call attention to other than the fact that somebody got a payout because our e-NABLE fund has gone down from 30 to just under 22. So
it was a catch up of expenses for 4 or 5 month period, I think.
Okay, all right. So we know we have some other payments coming in from our recurring donors, thanks to Bob.
Yeah. I just saw. I think it might have been Ben's payments. The monthly payments were not being accounted promptly in Open Collective, and I saw a 4 or 5, 6 month correction all at once.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, how does these numbers work? Is it something that it's directly from Open Collective, or is there a separate manual?
You mean where am I getting this number?
I was just curious if it was updated or if it was something that manually we have to be.
Well, I'm just pulling it from right here. Today's balance on Open Collective. That's where I get it from. So how John is managing this, I don't know. Maybe he was delayed in putting some of the transactions through. We'd have
I
to
think
ask
it
him.
was a delay of input to Open Collective. That's the issue.
So all I'm doing is copying this each week, Ben.
Okay, great. That's good to know.
Now the Milstein should be in because I provided them with all the routing info.
Okay, so we'll probably see that next week. I'm sure there's a delay. It probably just waits for, John to review and approve or something. So not to worry. Upcoming meeting or recurring meetings rather. We've got our usual list here. So just as a refresher, we've got our education meetups the first Mondays of the month. chapter leaders the second Mondays, device pilots the third Mondays, and those are all at 12 Eastern. And then we have our new member meetups on the third Fridays, and our focus follow-ups on the fourth Fridays. Those are both at 1 Eastern. And then there's some other recurring meetings that you can find in the hub, like we have a Bionic team design meeting coming up. So keep an eye on the calendar for those other things. The only one-time event I have on the radar is Co-Inter, which is happening as we speak. I'm told John has already given a presentation, so hopefully we'll get a link to that soon so that we can see that. Anybody else have anything in terms of events that I might not be aware of? No? Okay. On we go to our discussion topics. I posted this in the hub. I did an interview with this guy that runs Misfit Heroes. Wanted to talk to me about e-NABLE, so I put up the video, and it's on all the audio podcast platforms. Just kind of talking about what we do, and it's out there if anyone wants to check it out. So where is Allie? We don't have her yet. I really wanted to hold off on this discussion until we have her with us.
So Allie mentioned she's going to be in transit today. So if she does join, it's going to be just with the phone.
That's what Kevin said, yeah.
Okay.
But I still think maybe we'll skip this for now and come back to it, because I really want Allie to be here for that discussion. So we'll come back to talking about the chapter networking event. But I mean, she did great work on it, but I do want to do a debrief and kind of talk about takeaways. John, you could join us. Good. We were just talking about whether you had already given your presentation at Co-Inter. I take it you did. And now he muted and went off screen. So, all right, I'm going to move on.
He'll be back.
And Ward, hello.
And it looks like Allie is here as well.
Just popped in. Good. I didn't have, or maybe I didn't have my window expanded all the way, but now I see everyone. Okay. Hi, Allie. Can you hear us?
Hi, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I know you're in the car, so please focus on your driving. But I did want to kind of talk about just going over a recap from the student chapter networking event. We were holding off on that because I wanted to make sure you're here for that. So are you okay having that discussion while you're in the car?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Awesome. Okay, so obviously we've shared the recording. I've got the link in here. In my notes here, I just have kind of overall impressions and then some discussion about how we get better attendance for future events. And the reason I put that in there is just, I guess, to get the conversation started. I want to say that, Allie, I think you did a phenomenal job. I mean, so much work went into this. And I think there are so many valuable takeaways in terms of what we can, it's a model for, I think, how we can really do great events going forward. I did feel a little bit like I wish we had more chapters represented, due to all that work that you put in. How did you feel about it? How did you feel about the participation level, and how did it compare to your expectations?
Yeah, thank you. I really thought the event went well too. And I do agree. I think it would have been nice to have more chapter representation. I'm putting together for my final deliverables some recommendations moving forward. But
awesome.
I guess, so we had around 40 people sign up via the registration link, and there was a lot of inquiry about the event, and it seemed like we had anywhere between 20 and 30 people consistently throughout the day. And some people joined for specific speakers, I've noticed, and some people were there the entire day.
Sure, and that's to be expected. But when you say 20 to 30 people throughout the day, were you actually counting how many people are at each location, or are you just counting the number of connections in Zoom?
I was just counting the number of people that were on Zoom throughout the day.
Okay, so some of those might actually have had several people on their end. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't hit me as a particularly bad participation.
No, it doesn't really. You're right. Maybe I wasn't keeping track of the numbers. I mean, if that's what it was, if there were 20 or 30 throughout the day, I'd say that's actually quite good for a one-day event that we didn't promote all too long.
I mean, look at e-NABLE Con a couple years ago when you and I were there in person.
That's right.
I mean,
that was about what we had there.
Yeah, there weren't many more people there.
What's interesting too is that
it is content. that would have benefited far more people if we could do it. So I think it is clear that if we can put on a quality event like this, getting more people to be able to benefit from it is a good thing.
Well, sure.
I was going to say it's quite a accomplishment to, after whatever it was, 7 or 8 hours straight of Zoom, to still have 20 people. People join and leave, and I think there's probably a lot more than 40 people that were involved throughout the day. I was going to ask, Jeremy, are you familiar with the operation logs within Zoom? We were trying to figure out how we could get some specific data of participation. And I think the best way for us to do that is going to be through Zoom, but I'm not exactly sure how.
I have never seen any such information. Are you aware of such reporting existing, or are you just wondering if there is such a thing?
There is within Zoom. There's report logs, and there's sort of these operation.
If there are logs, I can certainly get them for you. I had no idea they logged stuff like that, but if they exist, I can get them for you.
That'd be great. I can send you some links. I read a little bit about how to get it. It might be something where it just spits back like this big log sheet, but we can sort of parse it out.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I ever get is the chat log, which is just a text dump of the chat. That's the only thing I get. But if there's another log somewhere, just point me to it, and I'd be happy to get it.
Okay, great. I'll add it to the chat when I can find it.
So other thoughts, and I do want to respect the fact that Ali is going to be covering all of this next week, so we don't need to preempt that presentation. Just wanted to give others an opportunity to chime in here if others have feedback or comments. Otherwise, we can move on and get to it next week. Okay, well, why don't we do that then? I'll look forward to Ali's presentation next week, and I'm sure we'll have lots more insights that we can use going forward. So on we go. Wanted to have an infrastructure-related discussion, partly because I'm just so excited about the work that Andrew and his team are doing on this new app that we've been talking about for capturing measurements and using that to generate truly parametrically scaled STL files for our upcoming design and future designs. It's very exciting work, and it continues to come along very well, both thanks to the work on the application side of things that Andrew is doing, and also on the design side of things, thanks to Alexander. In fact, Alexander pulled an all-nighter last night after our Thursday design team meeting, and he actually accomplished all of the ambitious goals that we laid out in that meeting in one night, and shared with me the results. So we're going to give a little demo of that today, just because I found it so exciting. We're not ready to share our design yet. There's still lots of work to be done, but I do think it's at a point where I want to show off a little bit of what we're doing. So we're just going to give a quick demo here. And Alexander, if you don't mind, I'm going to show first my screen, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, just because I wanted to show people just kind of the big picture of what we're doing here.
Sure thing.
And so this is what Alexander put together last night, the hand part, and I'm going to let him take you through all of that and what you're seeing there and why it's so impressive. What I'm showing you here is just a preview of kind of the approach we're taking on this design, which is a very aesthetically pleasing hand modeled off of the kinetic hand and making modifications off of that. This is not a final design, so yes, we know that there are going to be changes to the shape and the opening in the back and all. It's a work in progress, but a very nice looking hand paired with a very different looking cuff, and that's just this little thing that sits on the top of the forearm. We'll be adjusting the shape and all, but it'll be pretty simple like this with channels. And this is going to be a push-pull design. So each of these channels is going to have a single monofilament, just a string of nylon that goes through that runs into each of those channels in the hand. And that's going to do the pushing and the pulling. It's going to go both directions that way, no elastics. And if you can imagine this chainmail kind of wrapping around your forearm and then hooking into these slots on the side of the little cuff piece here, so that it'll sort of conform to the beauty of this approach is that we get that conformance, being able to shape to one's anatomy without having to mess around with printing flexible materials. You get a flexible sort of result here, but it's printed in a rigid material. That's why we've really kind of fallen in love with the chainmail concept. And so you would sort of wrap that around and that'll hook in. And then similarly, there's going to be a chainmail sort of a covering for the palm, and just a thin sort of a chainmail linkage between them. And you'll see that that's actually the only linkage. There are not going to be side hinges there's not going to be any connection between the cuff and the hand other than that connection point at the bottom. And that's to allow this sort of lateral and rotational flexibility, which is going to let us do variable grips and things like that. So some sort of differences in the overall design, but now I want to turn it over to Alexander to kind of talk about the really exciting part. So I'm going to stop my screen share and talk to us about what you did last night, Alexander.
Right.
If you were awake
I
enough.
don't even know where to start. Basically, I did everything. So
You got to share your screen, my friend. Are you able to share, or did you want me to share?
yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay.
So I started by figuring out the parameters by parts, which is, of course, we need the three non-uniform scaling parameters for the palm itself. And then we need a bunch of parameters for the joints themselves, which we are using that joint negative Boolean operation technique, the wire size, and a bunch of dimensions for the chainmail, which are currently not implemented.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fancy part of being able to do this is that I managed to make the file editable completely. So I think this is best understood if I showcase it. Let's say I want to modify this particular wire, right? In which case, let's say I want to make it higher. I just grab this point. Of course, you would have to understand CAD if you want to make this modification, but I just have to grab this point, drag it higher. Now it regenerates the entire thing, and you have this, this wire cutting higher. Now, this is available for everything that I've made in here, including the sculpture of the hand, the position and angles of each of these joints, and the parametric sizing of the joints, and the position and the angle of the thumb. As you
Alexander,
can see,
Alexander, just so you know, on your screen share, we're getting a low frame rate, just a few frames per second. So try not to pan around as quickly because it's hard to stay oriented.
all right, let me try to share it again in another way. Oh, no, it's shared with the full screen. All right. Right. So, for example, the fingers, they are not all parallel, and they don't all bend straight downward. And this can be easily modified when you're making the sculpture of the hand itself. So it allows us to have the fine details like having very organic shapes, and also allows us the mechanical finesse to reorient the direction of the bending of each finger.
Do some manipulation, Alexander, because I do want to keep this as a short demo. We will give a full presentation once we're ready, a little further along later. But just manipulate a few of the things that you can control in here, like some of the parameters, so that we can see how it changes. If you
this
would.
Is the full list of parameters. It's this is actually the reduced list. Some of them are computed based on them. Let's say I want to make the middle part of every single joint larger. So that would be, I don't even know. This is why I have this this one.
This is why we'll need documentation. Yes.
Oh, there you go. So you have the inner width, and let's say I want to make it larger. Let's make it 12 millimeters. Now it's going to recompute, and you have the core of this. For most fingers, this is too wide. Let's go with 4 millimeters. And it recomputes everything, and now the middle part is much thinner.
And yet all of the voids and all of the mechanical hinges are guaranteed to remain aligned appropriately?
Yep. And if you misalign them because you start creating your own hand and you want to have a sculpture, they are aligned using these alignment plates. And where the plates are placed, they are aligned with the top corners of them.
So let's put this into a little bit more context for the folks here that haven't been part of these discussions. What we're trying to do here is when we release this, it'll be kind of like two versions. There'll be the version that's available through the app that Andrew is building, so that for basic scaling, you take measurements, you put in your measurements, you get back your scaled STL files. You're never going to have to go in here and mess with any of this stuff Alexander is showing you. That's going to be handled through the app. For the more advanced users, we also want to give them the option to come in and do what Alexander is doing and start modifying the positions of the splines and changing directions and shape. We want to let you do all that, but you don't have to do any of that. That's only for the advanced folks. I just wanted to make that clear, that the majority of our volunteers are going to have the ability to just take a few measurements, put those into the app, click a button, and you'll get all the STL files ready to put on your printer that will have all of these benefits sort of built into it. That'll be handled automatically. Really impressive work.
On the other hand, people who are seeking to modify a design will be able to either modify this and have help keeping it keeping it compatible with the customization system.
Right.
I want to showcase the alignment plates. Let's say I want this entire joint dragged closer to the hand. I select the specific alignment plate in the history of changes. I drag it a little bit closer to the hand. And now everything gets recomputed and this joint gets closer to the hand.
Wow.
And this all parametrically scale with the hand. So if I want to have, let's say I want to have the hand longer than usual, everything scales accordingly, including the joint positions and the ratio between the joint lengths.
It's hard to appreciate everything that's going on here. I mean, everything that he's now doing and being able, all these manipulations that we're able to do tie back to an earlier innovation of Alexander's, which is to use this approach of taking negatives, building the negatives of these joints and cutting those out of a solid body, which allows a degree of freedom and customization that we didn't have before when those joints were modeled right into the design itself. So a number of things kind of tying together here that are quite unique and I think innovative.
Can you zoom into one of the joints, Alexander?
Sure. Currently, the objects are see-through to help in the development. I can make them solid, or I can show you the joints No, those are the joint negatives. What did you want to see in here?
Just to better explain what Jeremy is describing, it is a really different design than the other ones.
It's different in its approach of how it's being created. The end result, should be pretty familiar. I mean, the hinges and the fingers, except that it's going to be a sort of a filament pin hinge, so no hardware needed there. But yeah, he's actually created models for basically all the spaces in those joints that are being used to then cut that out from a solid finger, and the result is what you see. It's very clever.
I now fully understand how much I don't know.
There you go. Mission accomplished. All right. Well, this is so much fun, and I could spend all day looking at this, but we do have other things to talk about. Shall we move on?
Sure.
Thank you so much, Alexander. That was amazing work for a long night.
Time to get sleep, Alexander. Go to bed.
You need to get some rest. All right, let me get my notes back up here. All right, so we talked last week, actually, holiday week, so most people couldn't attend, but we did end up having a very interesting discussion, Alexander, Andrew, and myself. So check out the recording if you're interested. We ended up having a lot of discussion about e-NABLE Web Central and the other matching app that we have to evaluate from France and kind of what we want to do going forward. And the discussion came from kind of some, our developers that we have, the volunteers working on e-NABLE Web Central, have been kind of asking like, hey, what are we doing here? Are we still working on this stuff? What should we be doing? And I kind of have been holding them off. And so last week, we kind of decided that there are some things worth doing while we're deciding, kind of where to go big picture next. I think there are some improvements worth making in e-NABLE Web Central. And the most important one is we decided it's worth getting rid of a lot of the back and forth that we have in that application of each person needing to approve each step, and recommend a scaling, and then the recipient has to approve that. We're going to eliminate that. You take on a case, you just do the case, you update your, Enable Web Central with your results. We're going to really make it a lot simpler as far as the workflow. And that's as big of a change as that is, it shouldn't be too hard from a development point of view, because we're basically just bypassing a lot of stuff. So I think that'll be helpful. There were a few other things that we talked about, but my memory these days, boy, with everything I got going on, help me out, Andrew. Was there something else specific we talked about doing that you can recall other than that, or Alexander? I can go back and watch the recording, but I know we talked about eliminating back and forth.
Yeah.
We talked about the need to do
Bob?
a PR to get people into it.
I was on the call also.
Oh, that's right, Bob. I'm sorry. You did join us after a while. Thank you. Yeah. But I don't recall if we give ourselves any other action items other than eliminating as much of that back and forth as we could.
I believe the remaining task was to actually present to the entire group the idea and then figure out from there.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know how much we want to get into this today. I mean, it's a bigger discussion. I would like to get the other platform up and running. I still need somebody to help me with just figuring out how to get that going on a hosted WordPress platform. We have the code, we have a backup, but I need some tech help.
Two quick
Masvi
questions.
was on the call also.
Who was?
Masvi was involved. He
Oh,
was
that's
on the
right. I'm
call.
sorry, Masvi. It was, and maybe who else was there?
It was Alexander, Masvi, myself, you, and that was it.
I don't
Were
think
you
I was
there?
here for this. I don't remember.
No,
any of
Okay,
this.
so I had the
wasn't on the
wrong.
call.
I had the wrong technical people in mind. That's right. So it was Masvi and Alexander and myself.
Masvi,
for most of it,
Alexander,
then
you,
Bob
and
joined
I.
in. Yep.
That was it.
There you go. Thank you. Okay. So anyway, yeah. So we had a lot of discussion about proper, ways of moving forward with infrastructure and all that. And I don't remember that we came away with anything other than this change. I guess it sounds like I'm going to have to go back and review the video, because I feel like there were other things we talked about doing, but nobody was taking.
You're right,
good
Jeremy.
notes.
It sounds like you had a very good meeting, that you made a lot of progress, that if
And now we don't remember what it
we were to
was.
watch the meeting, we would simply catch up on the progress you made.
I think that's what I gotta do.
suspect it would be good for you and the group, to
Yeah.
sort of come up with a list of what you propose to do based on what you did last time.
You're right. It's just it's a matter of watching the recording and taking notes this time. I'll be honest, I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that. So I will do my best.
I've got an additional step to add to whoever wants to watch the video, would be to post it in the hub, and if it's public, and then use that as a platform to ask for help. I think in terms
Anybody
of
wishes to help me with this, I would welcome the help. You will probably get to this sooner than I will. So please, if this sounds like, if the whole infrastructure matching platform thing is of interest, I'd love anyone's assistance.
if you send me a link, I'll watch it and I'll make the post.
Can I just
Fantastic. Well-
summarize? My recollection of the whole thing is that we kind of decided maybe you need to go back to scratch on this whole concept of a matching. And therefore, we discussed the various platforms that, for instance, France uses and what e-NABLE Web Central is. But we decided that immediately we would stop this back and forth, which only confuses and delays Web Central.
I've got
So that would-
another suggestion or question, really. For some of the other sites, when they do this management, they have sort of a moderator. I know that we've got some international people that they just get overwhelmed. I wonder if, as a role for this, we could have sort of case moderators that walk people through it. Instead of having it be all sort of like an online order kind of process, it might be something that involves a call.
Right.
I know I did that personally with a case in Veracruz in Mexico, organizing a call with some folks in Mexico that were local, that spoke better Spanish than I do. But I wonder if that's something that we can also consider, sort of the translation as being moderated by a sort of a little guide role or facilitator.
Yep. Is it possible that I did not record last week's meeting? Because I'm not seeing it here. I'm wondering if it's because we had such slim attendance in the beginning. We just started chatting and we weren't planning for it to end up being an hour-long discussion.
We were going to punt and not even have a call, and then we just got into it.
And so I think I never started the recording. Okay, we're going to have to recreate our discussion. I think we're going to have to regroup and figure out what we want to do again. I know one thing that we can work on, though, is that simplification in e-NABLE Web Central to eliminate a lot of the back and forth. I know that was one big thing that we agreed on. Because what we talked about is there is a lot of value, we thought, in e-NABLE Web Central. There's a lot of good stuff there. We don't want to just throw it away. If we can make it a lot easier to use and then use that as a way of drawing more people in and promoting it, that's one option.
The discussions initiated, Jeremy, by yourself because you were not sure what to tell the developers who were sort of waiting to know what to do.
Exactly.
And that's how...
So I think I can at least have them work. Now I can have them work on that while we kind of think about the bigger picture and next steps. Okay, good enough. I would like to regroup at some point when I can get Masvi and Alexander and other interested parties back together. I think it would lead to other next steps that we maybe didn't capture properly. Okay, well, let's go on for now. Let's see. I don't think there's anything else under infrastructure. Does anybody else have anything related to our infrastructure to talk about? Okay.
I've posted a couple things in animal prostheses lately. That's it.
Well, I will mention that Kevin is going to be splicing the Launchpad and the new members' space together.
Good. I was wondering when that would happen.
And he'll be doing that this week. So you may get a call or two, Jeremy, even though you're very busy. But we did, I think, come up with a way of doing it that's relatively simple. And he'll be presenting that next week. So that will be a significant change to the hub architecture and a real improvement, I think.
I would think it's just a matter of copying and pasting it in as a post and pinning it, right?
My current idea was to have was to just leave it as a separate space and just have a comment in the new member space linking to it.
Right. The pinned post in the new member space will link to the Launchpad and say, new members, your complete guide is available right here.
There's some complexity to it, actually. We've got two spaces right now. We've got a pilot sort of prototype that Kevin is finalizing. That's called the Launchpad. And then we've got this new member space that's active that all new members, there's 665 or 680 people that are going to it. So we have to pull those two together. The tricky part for Kevin is going to be to take his whole system with all the links, stick it into our existing space, and then have to update all the links. So John's question about infrastructure.
No.
Wait, guys.
We came up with a better technique.
This is just a post. This is a post. All we have to do is copy this whole post, put it into the new member space as a post, and pin it.
This
is a wiki.
Just this the front page.
But everything in this is, I mean, you could put this into a post and pin it. I'm not sure. You could the alternative is, again, this is a wiki page. If we go to our new members, wait, where's my new members? So if we go to the new members space, let me get back there. Welcome.
Yeah, why not have two spaces? There's no reason to.
No, that's what I'm saying we should not do. There should not be two spaces. We already have a new member space. Everybody gets added to it automatically. This is where they're going to come. You can choose whether the default view of a space is the stream, which it is now, or the wiki. So if we want, we could just have it default to the wiki page, and the first page would be the dashboard, just like it is now. It's a wiki page.
There's two problems with that. One is that we already have, as you can see, archives on the wiki that are useful. People do also use the stream. But also the second thing is that all the links that Kevin currently has developed, so he's got this whole network web of resources, and they're all using local links. And if he copies, and if I understand this, maybe I'm missing something, Kevin, you can correct me. If he copies that text and pastes it and deletes the old space, pastes it into the new space as the wiki, he has to update each and every single link, mostly, a lot of links.
Yeah,
Correct.
all of, for example, the how to use the hub and the recipient of device, those all go to pages in the Launchpad prototype space.
So
Which
why not
ones? Can
leave
you
it
give
as
me an
two
example?
spaces?
Wait, which ones?
Give Jeremy a chance here.
Just give me an example. Give me one example to look at.
Recipient of device.
Okay. Okay, this is going to a file download.
That's the image file. Go to, if you click on the text recipient of device. Yeah.
So you're using a permalink.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
They
those
should all be
should travel
permalinks.
all right, actually.
Well, if there's a way to move a wiki module, I don't know that there is. That permalink would not follow. No, not if we copy and paste. So that is something we'd have to deal with. But there's got to be a way to move it with links staying intact. I'd have to
I'm
think
starting to
about
think, though, from this conversation that if we had those two spaces, but one was just embedded in the other, there's no reason why we can't have the Launchpad as a space which has all of its own resources within it. And then
where would you put it here? Would
Pin
you just
post.
like put it in this pin post?
Listen, as long as we're problem solving, Jeremy, why don't you copy and paste into a post? You can always delete it, and let's just see if the links get broken or not.
No, I know that first of all, they won't get broken now because the space is there. But as soon as if we try to remove the space, they'd all break. I can tell you that without a doubt.
Correct, Amanda.
So, but what we can do is if we were just to edit this pin post right now, this pin post is just upcoming events. I think the pin post should start with, start here and link them over to that dashboard. And then, have everything else is here now. And I'll let Ben do that. I'm not going to do it here, but that's a simple solution. And
we talked about that at a meeting on Thursday. Right.
That's the simple solution we came up with last time.
Okay, yeah, so you guys were right then. And let's just rename the other space, take out prototype, and then, link to it clearly from here, maybe with some kind of a visual. We really want that to be the first thing new members see when they come in here.
It saves a lot of time for Kevin too. Great.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay. That'll work. So, but let me know if you need help with that. But I think with that approach, you probably won't need any help from me. But just let me know.
I do have a quick question though. In that space, there are some old archived pages. Is there a way to actually archive the pages? Because currently they're just
which space are you talking about?
The Launchpad space.
Oh, currently, in the Launchpad. Let me get over there.
Yeah, in the index.
In the wiki, okay.
In the index.
Yeah, okay. So you're talking about these things?
No, just under under home.
Not the page index. Index.
You'll see it on
middle
the side.
right, Jeremy.
This?
That index.
Yes.
So one of the categories is archive. That's just like a category of pages. So once this is made entirely public, other people will be able to see that. But those are the old pages that we wanted to just archive for posterity. Is there a way to do that?
Yes, there is. You can have under settings, or maybe it's even under edit page or whatever it is. You can set it up so there's sort of admin access to certain things. And I have that with the device pilots page. I have access to the contact list of all the folks that are in that group, but I don't have that public.
Well, I see an option to disable edit access for non-wiki administrators, but that wouldn't hide it.
There's a public checkbox.
It's making a new, we're getting into technicalities. I can follow up with Kevin. There is a way to do it.
Yeah, if you know how to do it, go for it.
So just remind me, Kevin.
All right, thanks, Ben.
All right, anything else infrastructure related then? All right. R&D we just covered with our little demo. I did want to share that because I thought it was pretty exciting, the work that Alexander was doing. So that new design is coming along nicely, and I'm hoping that we'll have something to share with the community in the next, I'd say, 1 to 2 months. I mean, I don't think I'm being overly ambitious there. We'll see. Anything else on the R&D side that anybody wants to talk about? Alexander or others?
Definitely the hand as it is right now, since I've already placed the zip type placements in there, is the MVP of the project, so the minimum viable product. So we are starting to need people to actually test it.
I got to hold you off there, Alexander. I'm not ready to release this thing widely yet until we make some further changes. There's some things that I spotted already that I know to be an issue. We haven't finished with the cuff yet. There's a few more things that I want to get done, and then we will absolutely be asking people to help test it. Right now, I think we should be doing our testing internally within the team.
All right.
Well, that means you are that person, Jeremy.
Well, I'm one of them. We got a bunch of us with 3D printers, so.
Okay.
In terms of
Okay.
R&D, there's been a bunch of posts recently that have been pretty active. There's a woman studying, I think, in Rome. She's working on her thesis, and I think it relates to some projects in Syria. There's been a bunch of people commenting on that. So just as a heads up to keep an eye on the hub for R&D. And it's been pretty active.
Pull that up here. Our most, I was actually thinking about that when I was doing the statistics today. That might be nice to, kind of highlight our most popular posts from time to time. Like this week, it's the one that you were talking about, people working in, which one was this? Is this in Syria, I think? Yep, working on a project.
I think she's in Rome, but it's a project in Syria, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great idea to have the most popular post as something that we take a peek at together. Why not?
Well, isn't that part of what the e-NABLE bot extracts?
Mm-hmm, it is, but to actually take a chance to look at it and think about it, a lot of the times those bot posts I just glaze over because I know that I'm kind of combing through it all anyways, but it can be really helpful. There's been a lot of interactions and it's gone over the course of a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
folks
the one
in
that's
Vietnam, I think, were also interested in reaching out. So that's a pretty far net.
Thanks, Kevin, for sharing that link for submitting a new design. That's great.
That was critical.
All right, let's see. Just a little.
I have an
left.
announcement with regard to outreach and partnerships.
Go for it.
I received a check in the mail for $20,000 from the Dora Foundation, Bob Rieger and Company.
That's fundraising.
So thanks to them and thanks to you.
Great.
That's fantastic. Now, you should be getting 5,000 from Milstein soon. I had to provide them the routing info again. So I did that about a week and a half ago.
Okay, we will keep our eye out.
And Milstein, you said, is 5 years, right?
I'm sorry?
You said Milstein was a longer time frame, or there was something you mentioned in a previous meeting?
Yes, Milstein is 4 years, not 3. I forgot.
4.
Thank you, Howard.
Okay. What is the status with this ICO-CREAD collaboration? Is this something we're still pursuing?
Well, it is. So Alexander and I have been attending these meetings. They're led by Rune Thorsen from a large OT center in Italy. The major other participant is Makers Making Change, who, as you know, have a somewhat more institutional and assistive technology oriented focus than we do. They are proceeding. They're under deadline. They're putting together a grant proposal for around $1 million. The way Rune describes it in one sentence, which is not the way I would like it to be described, but he's taking the lead, so it's his right to take a shot at it. He says, we're creating the largest database of assistive technology solutions in the world.
That are low
It will
cost
be
as well.
curated. Say what?
That are low cost specifically. There already is in his other project already is the largest collection of assistive devices that are paid.
Okay, so these are, I think, all going to be low cost, and I think they will a criterion will be open source also.
Yeah.
Uniquely, this collection will be curated by paid occupational therapists who will evaluate these devices. Now, that's the way he describes it. Also, in the larger description is the notion that these OTs will be available to consult with people using the devices. Now, I see that as a potentially huge benefit, but it's a secondary feature from Rune's point of view, and he's emphasizing the world's largest low-cost database. And I personally am not convinced that evaluating 1,000 or 2,000 devices by OTs is going to be particularly useful to the world at large or particularly attractive to Microsoft. He believes it will because he thinks that Microsoft really wants data that they can feed to their AI systems. I'm not sure he's reading it right, but that's the status. My position is that it's a worthy venture, that it could turn out to be really useful, and that Rune is leading, and that both e-NABLE and Makers Making Change are happy to be participants, but I think I've communicated the status and my skepticism that it will end up flying. I think it's useful for us to participate in the conversation. I think it's a worthy effort. I'm grateful that Rune is doing it, and that's where we're at.
I want to mention that whether or not this initiative succeeds, we are creating a lot of international contacts and we are accessing a lot of very impressive resources of assistive tech.
That's right. That's right. We're being good citizens in a laudable venture, and we're contributing to it.
Do you guys need any support from others here? You got everything you need?
Well, they are creating a budget, and they are going to be looking for front-end developers and back-end developers and things along those lines.
Sure.
We have advised them that we can recommend people like Andrew and Alexander, and, for example, people like Theodore, who I've only heard about secondhand, but that we don't have employees, so that we would be happy to make those introductions, and those would be relationships that we would facilitate, but not be in the middle of. So for the moment, they don't need anything from us that they're not getting.
Okay.
I want to mention that if the grant actually goes through, there will be an opportunity for some of our community to contribute. In his thinking, Rune has designed a way for OTs to be paid to work with a patient to test a specific set of devices. And we can give the community the chance to actually contribute like that, and it would be a paid opportunity, assuming the grant goes through and everything is well defined.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Oh, Giving Tuesday. We just did that. How'd that go? How'd we do?
In terms of money coming in, we got $1,000, but I think we did jump through all the hoops of putting it on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and the hub, and trying to model, something that maybe other chapters can take some notes on. I can share my screen, or actually if you go to the post, you can see that we just had sort of like a one-pager for the e-NABLE fund that we shared. It was kind of a...
Which post?
Which post do you want to go to? If you look up fundraising, you can actually just filter in the beginning. If you want to save time, you go to the filter and you go fundraising, it'll pop up.
Whoops.
I never used that filter.
Oh, it's wonderful. There it is. So the link, it says a Giving Tuesday. There's a link in there. Yeah. And that's...
You want me to click on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the post that we shared, and also it was an email to our master list, so 10,000 people. And I just based it on our what we had approved last year. John and I made some edits, but next, I think it is wiser to maybe have a separate meeting a week beforehand next time, just to go through if there's any other updates.
Yeah, that would help. Well, I mean, raising $1,000 for a one-day campaign isn't too bad. That's certainly helps. Okay, we can mark that off. So let's see, is there anything else to talk about with outreach and partnerships that we haven't covered? No? Okay. All right, so let's talk case-related stuff. We just, so there was a recent meeting with our friends at who was Bailey with, Bob, remind me?
Moody,
the Moody Institute,
Rehabilitation Institute,
who's working with a recipient named Bishnu, and we've been working on a custom device for him. We were very confident that the first prototype we were sending would not work, but it would give us the feedback we need to move forward. So there was a meeting earlier this week to kind of go over the testing and get some feedback. Bob, Alexander, you guys want to share any notes?
Alexander,
Bob, how about you first?
I'm sorry, I spaced out. What were you saying?
That's okay. We're talking about the meeting about Vishnu's case.
Vishnu and Bailey.
So Bob, since you're kind of, Bob's taking the lead on this project, let me ask Bob to give us kind of a summary first, if you don't mind.
My clock is chiming 12 ahead of time in the background, so
we have to wait
hold on
for
a
12
second.
chimes.
And the dog goes nuts when the clock chimes 12. Okay, we got it. Alexander, I'll pass it over to you, but I joined the meeting late because of confusion with links and everything. Alexander was already speaking with him, and we went through the current design. And finally, I think we all looked at it and said, you know, no matter how you make this hand, it's going to be huge. You can't get around that. You can sculpt it. Alexander can do all his magic.
After nearly an hour of troubleshooting all problems.
Yes, but you know, I said, you know, you can't bend time and space, right? So no matter how good Alexander is, so we asked them, said, look, you know, if Alexander can make changes, will it still be too big? And Bailey wasn't sure, and she asked Bishnu, and Bishnu said, well, yeah, I really don't like it that big. I'm more concerned that it just does certain things. And I don't care if it looks like a hand. At which point Alexander then said, well, I can make it a lot simpler, and if I don't have to make it look like a hand, it won't be quite as big. And that's kind of the direction we've decided to go based on Vishnu's desires. Alexander, is yours. What do you want to say?
You pretty much summarized it. Yeah.
Well, but then where does that mean? Where are we at? Are we waiting for Bishnu to come back and say these are the things I want to be able to do, which I thought
Yes.
I understood from Alexander?
This
you're
is
not
the task
yet
right now.
Okay, so once we get that from him, then you're going to start working on something for him, Alexander.
Yeah, then I need to brainstorm which of those tasks is actually achievable by us, and once that's done, actually implement those 3D printed variants.
It was a very peculiar call, and it led to me asking about this because Bailey was doing all the talking from their end, and Bishnu was sitting there very quietly. And it occurred to us that we're not hearing what he wants. And then when you looked at the hand that Alexander did, which was a brilliant Frankenstein, right? No matter how he was going to change it, it wasn't going to change the material size of the hand.
Exactly.
And it was like a baseball catcher's mitt.
That's always been the challenge with these larger residual anatomies. You try to fit it inside something that is trying to look like a hand, and it ends up being really huge. So I'm glad to hear he's open to a functional device that doesn't need to look like a hand. That'll let Alexander let his creative juices go wild and come up with something amazing.
Yeah, and there may be a lot of Vishnus out there, people with large hands that are not good matches for our standard designs. And it's nice that we've got someone to work with to help us see if we can come up with a 3D printable, non-anthropomorphic, functional device that is valuable.
I think Alexander raised an excellent question, and I can't remember whether it was our call with Vishnu or it was our town hall meeting that we're trying to reconstruct from last week. But maybe an early question to people, which I've never asked, to be honest with you, and I don't know if many people have, is why do you want a hand? What do you expect it to do?
Yeah.
And we just assume everybody wants either a robotic or an anthropomorphic hand, and here's what you're going to get. And maybe that's an early disconnect in our process that influences then how they feel about what they get, whether they're disappointed or happy or what.
You just gave me another idea then, Bob, of a very easy change we can make in e-NABLE Web Central, because right now we already have that form people fill out when they want to request a device. I'll add in a few questions about what are you looking to be able to do, what's important to you, aesthetic or function, etc. We'll ask some of those questions. You're absolutely right. We should be.
Yeah, because if somebody says, well, I really want to hold a fountain pen and do calligraphy, ain't going to happen. Not easily.
It can, but not with our current devices. You would need a specialized holder.
Well, but even with a specialized holder, bending a wrist and holding a limb, and all I'm saying is we really don't take a lot of time up front to fully understand and set expectation. That's all.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, we may have a high frustration level. These are just thoughts I'm throwing out.
No, not only is it a good idea, that's another thing that I think we can do very easily that will have an impact. So those are great ideas. I've captured that under my
I've
e-NABLE Web Central.
donated 31 devices. I really wonder, and it's sad that I don't know, but I really wonder how many of them are still using them and at what frequency, and it's probably very disappointing answers.
Yep. Well, and that's another thing that we had on the roadmap for e-NABLE Web Central that we just never got to because we sort of went into this hiatus, which was the whole follow-up side of things. That can be automated where at certain periods of time after somebody receives a device, they receive a request to fill out a form with some feedback about how it's being used or not used and why and what's working and what's not. And it could all be captured back into our database and we could do reporting on it. It's just, we have to kind of decide if we want to go forward on all that or not.
I have to run to another meeting, but let me,
Yep, we got to be wrapping up
can I
here.
transition to the other case, which is
Go for it.
the little boy Stefano?
Yes.
Where I had said, there was a problem maybe with the thumb, and turns out there's a feeling maybe his thumb is okay, but it's not gripping well enough. And in any event, it broke, and there was some dynamics with the family. In any event, I'm making a second device now for them out of PETG. I'll be talking to you, Jeremy, because I can't quite find the colors the little boy wants in the PETG, but I'll go offline with that with you.
Yeah, maybe I can do something.
I'm going to use Lee Tippy fingers that I sent them. They're going to try those out. But again, the expectation of what he can do with it. What he did find is that moving a wrist, it's not a natural function. And no matter what anatomy you have or don't have, you're now adding another maneuver to the equation.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely right. There is absolutely training involved in using these devices. You have to,
and the training, it may be training, but it may still not be acceptable or comfortable.
Maybe, yeah.
Anyway,
but that's good feedback.
I'm making another device for that case, and I apologize. I got to run to another call.
No problem. Thanks, Bob. We're going to be wrapping up here.
Okay, talk to you.
Does anybody else have anything that you'd like to talk about case related? Okay. I don't think we need to go into the other topics since we're short on time. The onboarding discussion is going to be covered in next week's presentation from Kevin, and I don't think any of this other stuff is time sensitive. So does anybody else here have anything you'd like to talk about before we close? All right.
I gave a talk to Everton's group in Brazil, which went fine. It was this hybrid of e-NABLE and e-NABLE as a model and as this climate project of mine as a new iteration of the model. And
you're going to post the recording for us in the hub, right?
when I get that recording, I will. It occurs to me I can post the recording of the similar presentation I did to the Fab Labs in the summer. So I will do that and make a note so that I don't just say I'll do it, but actually do it.
Great. Yeah, I look forward to seeing that. Okay, well, Ben,
One final reminder. Yeah, so Monday we have the educational meeting. That's our monthly meeting. John and I were trying to come up with what the focus would be since we just had this big educational conference. Maybe that would be a question for Kevin and Allie if she's still on the call. How would you guys like to use this last educational monthly meeting in your tenure? And it's Monday from 12 to 1 Eastern.
Yeah, I'm still on the call. I guess it kind of depends on whether or not anybody from the event shows up. But if we do have participants, maybe we could do a debrief with them and get some feedback since we didn't get any like written feedback. Maybe that could be part of it.
Yep.
That sounds good. So maybe we can, if it's possible, do we have any preparation on our side? What do we want to bring with us to that meeting? And you can feel free to delegate.
Bob had mentioned, I don't remember the number, but Bob had mentioned how many people ended up actually claiming badges during our badge-a-thon. We should get that number from him. I don't remember what it was.
18.
Oh, you know, good.
And one person requested a badge and it's still pending.
Okay. That's one metric. And then I'll see if I can get those logs that you mentioned, and we'll have that available. And then I like the idea of getting feedback from anybody who's there.
Good.
Yeah. In regards to prep work, I think maybe just making a post inviting people who attended the event to join and give us feedback, just so that they know that that's going to be a topic of discussion.
Yeah.
But of course, if nobody from the event shows up, that's not going to be the theme.
That's great, Allie.
Do you want to follow up with an email to the people who registered?
Yeah, I can do that. Will
Okay,
you? Yeah. Once you
do you want to do a
add to the event, or the meeting, let me know, and then I will send it out.
Sounds good. So I'll make the post first, and then you'll have something to link to.
Perfect.
Great.
Anyone else? All right. Well, thanks everyone. Have a good week. See you next Friday.